Hey guys, Zom Fox here, and today it's time to do my Week 6 picks for the 2024 United Football League season. Yes, we are now past halfway through the season, and we are to a point now where we pretty much know what teams are probably going to make the playoffs, though there is still some potential area allowed for teams to make a late season push and potentially jump into the playoff picture. But with this week, we have a couple of games that are basic must-wins. Some of these teams could pretty much be eliminated from the playoffs this week, and some could even basically all but clinch. So we're going to get into it starting with the two Saturday games. Now, the first game is the Stallions versus the Showboats. The Stallions are a favorite by 12.5 points. Yeah, minus 12.5 is pretty crazy. And then the over-under is 43, and the money line is minus 850 Birmingham, plus 575 Memphis. Not surprised, but I am surprised at the same time. And the fact that that's not even the only 12.5 point spread, as you can see on this screen, is pretty crazy. Now, the question is exactly what I think. Well, what I think is that Adrian Martinez was announced as the starter, so he is, for all intents and purposes, going to be the starter for the remainder of the season, unless it's just a matchup thing because he played him insanely well when he played against the Showboats. But yes, Martinez is the starter, and I've talked about it before. I think that Martinez as the starter makes Birmingham the best team in the league, whereas Corral makes them the second best team in the league behind the Battlehawks. I think this is a blowout. I think they beat him 40-18. I might even be generous saying 40-18. The Stallions have annihilated the Showboats before. Just think back to that 40-point drubbing they did last year against them. I wouldn't be shocked if it happens again. Now, as Case Cookus is back as the starter for Memphis, I don't think it's going to matter. I think that Birmingham does cover. I think it hits the over basically just because of Birmingham, and I think, the money line goes to Stallions. Look, I think the Stallions understand they need to be undefeated. That matchup against St. Louis next week in Week 7 could be a huge draw if they're still undefeated. And I think that they know that. Adrian Martinez knows he's the guy. And I think this team knows that their pass rush is just so much better than the Memphis O-line that they should be able to just annihilate them. I think that overall, when you look at it, it's pretty hard to see how Memphis wins this game. I mean, they could come out there and just shock the world, have a great defensive performance. Because the fact is that they need to either just be really good at quick passes, getting the ball out of Cookus' hands immediately. Just, immediate shoot type of thing. Just pass the ball very quick, do a bunch of short passes. This would be the one time I would say that a quarterback just doing short passes would work. Because against this Birmingham pass rush, if he holds the ball for more than even 2 seconds, he's going to be pressured and he's probably going to get sacked. So because of that, I think that that's the only way Memphis can win. I think they score 18 points basically because I think the Birmingham defense will let their foot off the gas in the second half. But I expect this to be a blowout. I think Birmingham's going to go out there and make a statement heading into that game against St. Louis. The fact that people are actually putting St. Louis at number 1, if I'm a Birmingham player, I'm thinking we're undefeated. We've been the best team in spring football ever since the UFL came back in 2022. You want to prove a point. Beating a team 40-18 would be proving that point. I think Birmingham crushes them. Now the next game, the Roughnecks Battlehawks. Again, Battlehawks are minus 12.5. Roughnecks are plus 12.5. Over-under is a bit higher at 47.5, and the Battlehawks are actually a bigger favorite than the Stallions in terms of the money line, as they're minus 950 versus the Roughnecks plus 625. I actually think the Roughnecks cover. I think this ends 27-19. Battlehawks win. I think he does hit the under. I think the Battlehawks offense has been on too much of a roll. I think there's going to be a bit of a setback. This Roughnecks defense, now granted it's had its injury issues, but overall it still has the potential to be that insane, dominant unit. And the fact is the Battlehawks O-line, at least as of right now, they haven't really done anything to fix it. And from what we understand, there are a lot of guys who are going to be playing in this game injured or potentially inactive. So they're going to be using a pretty makeshift offensive line, and the Roughnecks defense can capitalize on it. But I don't think the Roughnecks win. I just think that they're able to do enough damage. The Roughnecks have still not put up 20 points in offense, so there's no reason to expect them to put up 20 points. But I think that overall the defense is going to do a lot better against St. Louis than DC did. The Roughnecks D-line, even with all the guys that have either retired, gotten injured, it still is one of the best in the league in terms of pure talent. I think they go out there and they prove a point. Their defense is still, really solid at, creating these big plays, but the offense is going to end up failing. I know Sinet is still the starter, even though Garantano is back as the backup. I think Garantano might end up even playing, knowing Coach CJ, but I think that overall, the Battlehawks still win this game. It's not going to be a blowout, but the Battlehawks are still going to get the W, even with their makeshift O-line, and go get ready to head into that game against the Stallions as a team with only one loss. Now, in terms of the Sunday games, we start off with the Renegades versus Panthers at 1 p.m. This is one that I'm not really shocked at. I mean, the Panthers are minus 4, over-under is 42, money line is minus 198, plus 164. I'm not really too shocked at this overall spread. The fact is the Renegades still keep a lot of these games pretty close. They did technically keep last week's game overall closer than basically every other game was. So it's a bit tough to, determine how well do I think the Panthers defense plays against Luis Perez. The fact is that you can make a very good case Perez has been the best QB in the league this season, as he had the 1 week where he played pretty bad against the Roughnecks. But aside from that, when you consider, even though he has great receivers, considering the fact that McCarron has far better receivers, and when you consider how bad Perez's O-line is compared to the Battlehawks O-line, you make a very good case Perez has been the best QB in the league. I'm not saying I would say that, but I'm saying that there is a legitimate argument despite what some people might say. But against this Panthers defense, I don't know. I'm going to go with the Panthers winning this, but I think the defense finally allows more than 20. I think for the first time this season, the Panthers defense allows more than 20 points. I think the Renegades are able to put up 24 points. I think that because you have Perez, and when you consider that it was week 1, A.J. McCarron, fair to say this is the best quarterback the Panthers have really faced, arguably. I know you would say Matt Corral, I believe is who they played against that game with the Stallions. But I would say that overall, when you look at it, I don't know, it's just Perez right now, again, he had the one bad game, but even last week, he played very well. It wasn't on him that they lost. I think they do cover. I think it's 27-24. I think the Renegades cover, but they do lose and it hits the over. I think the Panthers offense is getting its stride with Etling. Etling is a more consistent quarterback. While his ceiling is not as high as E.J. Perry, the fact is that his floor is a lot higher. And overall, in terms of consistency from what we've seen in the game and a half of Etling, he overall is a much more consistent passer than EJ was. And so I think that it's going to help them end up continuing this trend. And again, I also think for the first time this season, the Panthers put up 20 to 30 points instead of under 20 or over 30, 27-24. Now, the Brahmas defenders, this one does shock me. The defenders are only plus 1.5. Look, Brahmas are minus 1.5. You'd think that they'd be much higher, especially with all the hype they have and a lot of people viewing them as the third best team in the league. Over under 42.5, minus 125 for the Brahmas. This is a tough one. I mean, look, the DC home field advantage, it still exists. Yes, they did lose last week, but they're still 10-1 at home. I think they lose again. I think the Brahmas win this 28-18. I talked about this in my Fox Super 6 picks, which if you don't know, I do weekly shorts now of my Fox Super 6 picks. I just think the Brahmas go in there and win. Look, if you're this is a very big game. If you're the Brahmas, you understand this. You lose this game, you might miss the playoffs. It's that simple. The defenders also know that they need to win this game to stay in it. But if you're the Brahmas, right, you have all this hype behind you and everything like that. But if you go in here and lose to DC, your playoff chances go down a lot. Now, you're still, are expected to get in above the defenders because of how many losses the defenders have. But the defenders handing a loss to you would be a massive blow to the Brahmas. As a win here, all but solidifies them as a playoff team. That's what it is. The Brahmas need this win to solidify themselves as a playoff team. And doing so would basically eliminate the defenders. Now, the defenders still technically could get in, but they'd be at that point where it's, every week matters. So the Brahmas need to win this game, and I think they do. I think they win at 28-18. I think the Brahmas offense rebounds a bit. Dormane did not play his best game last week. I think he plays a bit better now. There's more, concern about his backups potentially overtaking him. I think that he goes out there, plays a bit better. I think the rushing game may fall a little bit, but overall I think they go out there and win 28-18. The defenders should have beaten the Battlehawks last week. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Battlehawks offensive line was so banged up, and they still couldn't get the W. That's the kind of loss that's going to affect you for weeks. And I think that DC ends up, getting affected by it, and they lose this game against the Brahmas. Not even that close. So my overall record last week was, again, a 500 record. The spread is now actually in the red. We are now 9-10 on the spread. But the over-under and money line are both still very solid. We're at 12-7 on the over-under and 12-8 in the money line. We were a couple points away from a perfect team score last week. Still have not increased either that or the game betting predictions or perfect game bets. But overall, we're still in the green overall. Again, we're 12-7 over-under, 12-8 money line. It's just that the spread has been taking a big hit. Hopefully this week we can rebound, get that spread back into the positive, and continue the other two. Again, we're still looking pretty solid across the season. This is still a very solid one. Overall, we're +4 on money line, +5 in over-under versus -1 on the spread. So +8 overall. You take that. So without further ado, that'll be it for today. This has been ZomFox. If you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified as soon as I upload any videos. And if you want to become a channel member for as low as 99 cents a month, you get a bunch of exclusive perks, including exclusive sneak peek posts, team emojis, and a video every month not about the UFL. And as always, have a great night.